Czechoslovakia 1948. Sovietization and the end of democracy. Europe after World War II was nearly completely destroyed. Cities were in ruins, people were hungry and homeless, and governments had been torn apart. When things like this happen, people always look for somebody to blame. Then they take the side of the idea farthest away from the side that started it. In this case, World War II was started by the extremely right-wing Nazi and fascist parties. So what did people look to after World War II? They wanted the opposite of Nazism and fascism. They wanted communism, and this worried America. Even places that were allies with America, like France, had very strong feelings for communism after the war. This worried America a lot. But as you learned in another video, communism doesn't necessarily mean that democracy doesn't exist, or that people can't vote. In fact, one of the most democratic countries in Europe before Hitler, Czechoslovakia, also had a very popular communist party. And in 1948, 3 years after the war ended, Czechoslovakia held elections and elected Edvard Beneš as president and communist Klement Gottwald as prime minister. This election would begin the process of Sovietization in Czechoslovakia. Beneš and Gottwald led a government that included many different political parties, and for a short time the government got along and functioned as a democracy. Yeah, communists were elected to the government, and people were happy about it. But soon, the communist leader that was in charge of the police replaced 8 elected police leaders with communists. The government voted to overturn this, but the communists refused. The non-communist members of the government resigned in protest. Czech citizens protested the communists being named to positions of power. Anti-communist demonstrations took place throughout Czechoslovakia. Mysteriously, 2 members of the democratically elected government, and not members of the Communist Party, suddenly died from falling out of windows. This is called defenestration. The Communist Party said they killed themselves, but I'll let you decide what really happened. The elected president, Edvard Beneš, resigned and was replaced by the communist, Gottwald, making the government much more friendly to the Soviet Union and Stalin. Later in 1948, when Beneš died, the pro-democracy citizens held their final free protest during Beneš's funeral, before the communist government took away their free speech. Later, the communists forced all political parties to join one communist party, making Czechoslovakia a single-party state that would become part of the Warsaw Pact and an ally of the Soviet Union.